Hello, listeners of this brand new podcast, the Pluto is a Planet podcast, that is. Welcome to episode 1. Now, I'm joined by two other co-hosts.
Hello there, I'm Arthur James.
Hello, I'm Alister.
So, a brief history of all of us together. Basically, we've known each other for a very long time. We've made many videos throughout the years. I have a YouTube channel called The Confused Adipose. You guys, if you want to discuss videos and content channels you've made in the past.
Well, I've done a few sketches. I've done a few very unsuccessful sketches, and some very unsuccessful other videos. But mainly, I'll just help Joe.
Yeah, just like Artie, I've just really started YouTube. I'm quite new. I've got a solid 50 subscribers at the minute, hoping that'll go up eventually.
Let the guys know what your channel name is so they can subscribe.
Lego Explosions.
Artmeister 44.
We mainly
Lego Explosions is also on Instagram, by the way. I'm The Confused Adipose, if you know that channel, Doctor Who related stuff. But yeah, we're back. New podcast. So, do we just want to jump straight into the first segment of today? Artie, take it away. Your news of the sci-fi whatever community.
So I've been given the job of doing the news of the sci-fi whatever community. So today I'm just going to focus on the MCU.
Term.
Yes. So today I'm just going to focus on the MCU. There's quite a few different news things to go through. First of all, there's the Secret Wars rumor that because we saw the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, could we see them and a Secret Wars storyline throughout Phase 4? Then on the subject of that, Tom Holland could be very important. And also Tom Holland, Spider-Man 3. Could a live-action version of Sinister Six appear in Spider-Man 3? Amy Pascal, on the special features of Spider-Man Far From Home Blu-ray, said that there could be a band of Spider-Man villains coming together to defeat their common enemy. Also, could there be a possible Young Avengers movie? Ant-Man's daughter Cassie is almost old enough to be her comic book counterpart's stature, and she is friends with Kate Bishop in the comics. And Kate Bishop is going to be in Disney Plus, trained by Clint Barton. And finally, there's Fantastic Four. Some rumor that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt will be playing Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman in a Fantastic Four movie. John Krasinski was almost Captain America, but decided he wasn't fit enough for the role, and Emily Blunt was almost given the part of Black Widow in the past, and that Spider-Man, as one of the smaller figures, is going to have to do something important.
Do you think Spider-Man, obviously I'm not that familiar with the source material, but where would you say Spider-Man would fit in? Would he lead a new team? Is he a natural leader? Is he not a leader? What sort of things have the comics delved into before?
He's a leader of the more younger teams in the comics. So if there was a Young Avengers movie and people are rumoring that Spider-Man is the next Iron Man, he would be, in my opinion, the perfect counterpart to Captain America. How Captain America was to the Avengers, could Spider-Man be that to the Young Avengers? I think it would be really cool.
That actually sounds really good because I do like Tom Holland's performance and the character especially. He's probably my favourite superhero character from the MCU.
Yeah. What do you think, Alister?
Definitely. I can't say Tom Holland is my favourite actor in
Boo!
Tony Stark all the way. Love him. I actually cried in theatres, but only the real ones know. But yeah, I would really like to see a third Spider-Man movie. I've always enjoyed them. I thought the last one was really good. And I think more villains would be good that we haven't seen before. And I would like to see him lead a younger Avengers team. Just to update it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like all the main characters have just, died out, and I can't really say I'm too enthusiastic about the Falcon becoming the new leader of the pack. I've never been a massive fan of him.
He's kind of bland, to be honest.
Captain America is basically on his last legs. Tony Stark is dead. Really, I just like Avengers to be spiced up more, just more new, just a newer concept.
I agree. I think that spicing up the Avengers is actually something that does need to happen, because if you think about the major players, if they don't have Spider-Man become a leader in Phase 4 and going on, then you're left with some relatively could I say, boring characters. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but the Winter Soldier, he's a bit dull,
Yeah.
and Falcon's fun as a side character. But I'm quite interested to watch the Disney Plus series so that we get a sense of who those characters would be on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, a question going back to like the Spider-Man aspect of it. Do you think those? Because you mentioned the 6. What was the title again?
The Sinister Six. So in the comics, there's a bunch of different characters, like Doctor Octopus and Kraven the Hunter. They all team up to basically fight Spider-Man, and they appear in most of the major Spider-Man like mediums. So they're in a lot of the cartoons, and
they're in the video
most
games, aren't they?
recently they were in the video game
Yeah.
for the PS4.
Yeah, my question for that is, do you think they would translate well onto screen? Because Doctor Octopus, to me, like everyone who knows me knows that I have a problem with stupid superhero and supervillain names, but would he translate as a serious threat on screen? Because I know Mysterio, or whatever his name was from Far From Home, he worked really well on screen because they changed certain aspects, like the film projection technique, etc. Would the
Yeah.
others translate well to screen or not?
Well, Doctor Octopus has actually been a Spider-Man villain in a film before. He was in Spider-Man 2, all the way back with Sam Raimi, and he was pretty fantastic. So I think that he translates well. They just need to sort of stray away from the way the comic book make him appear. The comic books make him appear, because he's in like a green morph suit and like he's a bit obese. Whereas in the film,
Fantastic.
they just made him like in a trench coat with these awesome glasses on. So it was really cool. So he does translate well.
Okay. Are we finished on that news item? Shall we move on?
Got any more?
Yeah, let's move on to the next news item.
Okay, so I'm here to deliver this one, and it's Doctor Who related because what else do you expect from me? But I don't know if you two have heard of this at all, but they are releasing, they're teasing a new Doctor Who multi-platform thing called TIMELORD Victorious, which will focus on a multi-Doctor story from David Tennant, Christopher Eccleston, and Paul McGann. Rose Tyler's back. It's going to be audiobook form, visual form, action figure form, all these various things. What are your thoughts and opinions on that?
From this, I don't think.
Yeah.
David Tennant is such an important part. I'm a Matt Smith fan, but I know how important David Tennant was to the Doctor Who universe, and if they mess it up, it is seriously going to affect them. And it's a risky move because they ended it on such a big high with it. It's like, do you want to go back and potentially ruin it, or do you want to like see if you can make it even better? Like, I don't really know what.
So the audiobook series out there and like things you can listen to for Doctor Who, but obviously they're not mainstream. This has been hyped up quite a lot because I've heard a little bit about it from my brother. Is this going to be more mainstream than the other audiobook series?
Yeah, I think its intention is because it's audiobooks, comics, novels, action figures. It's all the story takes place across a bunch of different things. I think they're appealing. It's basically every medium apart from TV itself. It's taking place on, and I think it's trying to bring the Whovian community back together because, as we know, after series 11 and 12, everyone is split down the middle, and there's warfare. So I think they're trying to remind people of a happier time.
Ooh, that's an interesting take on it. I like that.
Have they confirmed the actors for playing the roles, or do you think they might recast?
That's a very good question. David Tennant and Billie Piper and Paul McGann already do a ton of audio stuff, so I could see them coming back. But Christopher Eccleston, like, famously doesn't like playing the Doctor, and so yeah, that's up for debate. But I think he could. I'd like to see him come back.
So, shall I move on to Alistair's piece of news?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right, I will be talking about Mandalorian Season 2 and how, as we all know, Asoka is now going to be played by Asario Dawson. And also in recent news, Temuera Morrison will be playing Boba Fett, and it has been released by Disney that he will be playing this part. And
is this rumor or like fact?
I believe it is fact. It is fact. But we did get to see a little bit of what we thought was to be Boba Fett, even in episode 5 of the Gunslinger, because we again we see a figure walking, and he was the chains on him was rattling, and that is just such a famous Boba, almost like outfit and noise to him. It's odd to say, but that's a famous Boba noise.
The Star Wars does have a focus on like specific noises that relate to characters.
TIE fighters. That's a very famous noise. But I'd love to see him. I would honestly love to see him. Also, I would also like to see him play almost 2 roles, as Boba Fett and also as Captain Rex with Asoka. So that would definitely be something I would like to see. If it happens, I very much doubt it, but it is something I would like to hype up. But I'm looking, like, Mandalorian season 1 was amazing. I know that Artie watched it. Joe, have you watched it yet?
I haven't seen it yet,
Joe
but
hasn't seen
it's
it.
on my to watch list.
Yeah, it's definitely they've definitely saved themselves. Disney, by doing it.
So to hark back to what you were saying about Asoka, so Rosario Dawson, she voice acted Asoka, I'm pretty sure. So if she would be coming back in a live action capacity, how would that work? Because obviously Ahsoka's not quite human.
Does she look the part, like facial features and everything, compared to the animation? Does the actress look the same?
It isn't always about that, though. They can easily just put on a mask on her and she'll look like her.
To be honest, the difference between Darth Maul in film and Clone Wars is quite different.
Yeah, I suppose with the amount of orange makeup and gigantic weird hair pieces, Ahsoka would basically look like anyone stuck with that makeup.
Have a look at all of the aliens in Star Wars, and you can literally see how they can turn any actor into...
Also, on that note of Darth Maul, I know he appeared in the Solo film. Do you think Darth Maul could come back for The Mandalorian? Because it's around the same time period, isn't it?
No, it's later.
It's a lot later. The Mandalorian happens after episode 6.
Oh, I thought it was in between episode 4.
There's actually a spoiler that am I allowed to say spoilers on this podcast? Is this?
Yeah, just go for it.
Maul doesn't survive by the time the Mandalorian is even about.
Yeah, he actually dies in Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, I was wondering if they'd see a live action version of that, because isn't there meant to be some form of series live action of that time period?
I've got a feeling that there will be a Solo too. I don't think.
Yeah, I think they were planning to.
They were planning to, but I'm pretty sure it's cancelled.
Yeah, no one seemed to like that film. Hence why I still haven't seen it, actually.
I think... I don't know. I'd like to see Disney have another shot at movies. Like, I want them to have one more go at a decent movie of Solo. And because they left us on such a massive cliffhanger.
They did, to be fair. But I feel like if they're going to revisit it, they don't need to do it in Solo, because I personally am not a huge fan of Solo. All they need to do is have... Yeah, all they need to do is have something to do with Crimson Dawn. So you can remove Han Solo from the equation altogether and just have Darth Maul and Crimson Dawn turn up again.
And
you don't need to continue that same story.
What would that link in with? Just like
the writers
Crimson
could find
Dawn,
a way around it.
Star Wars Crimson Dawn. That's not good.
No, they could just be villains. In a series.
It could be just like they were in Solo, because Darth Maul, all we know about Darth Maul is that he founded Crimson Dawn. That's all we know about Darth Maul in Solo. And obviously all the stuff from Clone Wars and Rebels. So if they wanted to make a sequel to that, it wouldn't be that difficult, because all you need to do is fill the gap between Solo and where he first appeared in Rebels.
Just for any of our viewers to understand, I have completed the whole of Clone Wars. Artie is about midway, and Joe, have you watched? You've watched like a couple.
I was an avid fan of it as a child. Like watched everything that came out, and then I haven't watched it since.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
basically, my interest for Star Wars kind of died after The Last Jedi, which sadly. But we'll get onto all that later in the podcast.
yes.
Have we
Anyway,
wrapped up that story, do you think?
I believe we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the middle section. This is going to change from week to week, like paranormal stuff, whatever, stories. And I think you two are quite skeptical, aren't you? Especially Alister.
I don't believe in it at all.
Yeah, I'm a skeptic.
So,
It's just not real.
what's your reaction if I ask the question of, do you believe in ghosts or
No.
paranormal spirits?
Well,
No.
well, if you remember when we were kids, we used to believe in Marianne, good old Marianne.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Speaking
when
of,
we were
I
children.
walked past that grave yesterday and still got a shiver.
Shall we just explain to the viewers what we are talking about? Because this must be
go
very
on.
confusing. Who would like? I'm not too good at this story.
Okay, basically, I'll waffle on about it because I always did. The primary school that we all went to, because we've known each other since primary school, had a really old-fashioned sort of, I think it's medieval church next to it, isn't it? It's got a graveyard full of ancient graves and creepy whatever. And from the playground, like if you looked over the fence, the clearest grave you could see was that of a woman called Mary Ann. Now, for some reason, we all were petrified of this, and we developed our own urban legend mythology around this ghost called Mary Ann. And I ended up writing a book about it.
And every time the bells rang in the church, Mary Ann would steal a child.
Yes, but surprisingly, no children ever went missing.
It's weird, isn't it?
There was also, do you two remember the toffee monster?
No.
Wasn't that a story you told one of the boys in our class and terrified them to the point that you had to apologise to them formally?
I had to apologise to the mum because his mum came up to my mum and was like, Joe, you've got to stop telling him this story. He won't sleep in his own bed. Bear in mind that we were about 10 and this was a monster made of toffee, and this boy refused to sleep in his mum's bed because the toffee monster was going to eat him. And he wouldn't believe me when I told him it wasn't real, so I convinced him that there was a shield around his house that Toffee couldn't get into. What a fun time to be alive. British primary school.
I remember the Gnome King. Was that?
Oh,
was
yes.
That, yeah.
That's a villain from Return to Oz.
Yeah, that's
No, but that was also the villain to like that club that we used to do, where where we all believed in ghosts, and we used to fight off the film characters that were real.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I genuinely think that the reason I'm like such a creative-minded person and do all these YouTube things now is was born at that point, because we actually developed such a big mythology around these creatures and ghosts, and it could be written down because it makes more sense than Quidditch ultimately.
Yeah, that was a nice voice break.
Okay. No, that was the mic.
But I've got to say, the stories we came up with, no kid nowadays can make up that story. Everything's got to be related to
our generation was the last generation to not have iPads when they were in year 4 or 5. We got them in year 6.
Yeah, we were in year 6 when iPads became a thing. I remember.
I think we were, to be honest, in the perfect generation, because we had that amazing sort of transition where we went from being young, just watching TV and being outside, but then iPads were invented so that as we got older, we could come inside and be antisocial like teenagers should be. It was just perfect.
Our generation's timing is great.
Models for this.
I wouldn't quite call us role models. And we got to live through the Russell T Davies era and all the MCU
the best
films,
era of Doctor Who.
All of this stuff in our life.
Anyway, let's get back on to topic. We were going to talk about ghosts.
Oh yeah, ghosts. Right. So, Artie, do you believe in ghosts even slightly?
To be honest, no.
Alister?
I think.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Carry on.
So I think that there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on, and it's partially down to people imagining things, and partially down to people being stupid.
Yeah.
Fair
It's
enough.
just it's like, come on, even at the start of like paranormal videos and stuff, they have to put this is for acting and purposing only, and it's, I don't know, like everything they do, it's just, it feels fake. It feels
I've
fake.
told this story to Artie many times, and I can probably go into this in another podcast.
Is this
I'll
about
keep
the
this
diggers
short.
upstairs?
No, it's another one. My family has seemed to have like, not, I wouldn't call them ghosts, but sort of like spiritual encounters. For example, when my mum was about like 6 or something, she was sat on the stairs, and my grandma hopped over to my neighbour's house to borrow a like Hoover or cleaning product or whatever, and she said, "Sit there on your own, I'll be back in a minute." And then she walked out. And when she got back, my mum had apparently been talking to Auntie Mag, who I can't remember the exact relation, but she was a relation to my grandma. And yeah, my mum had no knowledge of this person. She hadn't been talked about much, yet my mum was sat there saying she'd just had a conversation with Auntie Mag. Now, how do you explain that?
Is Auntie Mag dead?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, you didn't say that.
Yeah, I probably should have cleared that up.
Yeah, just to say.
Yeah, she jumped through the window and then jumped back out. No, she died, and I don't know the full details, but I don't think my mum had ever met her or knew of her, yet she was talking to her. How does that work?
Well, there's a couple of explanations. Explanation one:
Mandela
a very coincidental imaginary friend.
Yeah, so these are the biggest conspiracy theories you'll find.
But come on.
Anyway, I think that about wraps up the paranormal ghost
Can I
aspect.
just say one last thing? Just one last thing. We truly did believe as kids, Marianne, right? Like it made kids wet the bed.
Yeah.
It was even in my mind for a solid 2 years.
I feel like that's only you, Alistair, who wet the bed over Marianne.
Why isn't that the meaning of people believing in ghosts? That some stupid story was made up, and people now believe in ghosts because it's just such a widespread paranormal belief. Like, you convinced everyone. Why didn't someone in the early dawn of time or whatever convince people?
I think we could delve more into this in another podcast because it's a really interesting topic. But I feel genuinely, there's something out there, because humans also have an innate desire to worship a god. I'm not saying there is or isn't one, but it's people search for something to worship. I think it's inherent with humans.
Humans have an innate desire to understand things, and when you don't know something or can't physically comprehend it, you just think, "Oh, it must be supernatural." I think it's the easiest solution.
It's more of a fact that they don't want to accept that people have died. They don't want to accept that they will one day die. Yeah. So they go, "Oh, there's a ghost. My mum's not dead. She's in the bottom of the garden." That sort of thing.
I feel like we're getting too close to religion further than ghosts here.
Yeah,
I've got to be. But everyone has the right to their own opinion. But yeah, carrying on.
Yeah, but people who share it will get bullied.
Oh dear.
Just like heaven, it's something that you want to believe. If you believe in ghosts, you believe in ghosts. If you want to believe in heaven, then you believe in heaven. If you believe that you will be reincarnated, you believe in reincarnation. If you want to believe that after you die, that's it, you believe in that. It's all about belief. That's it.
I feel like we should move on because we're really dancing on the razor's edge here.
Right,
no,
next subject.
This is actually a really next podcast we'll continue this conversation. So, Artie, go.
What am I doing?
Right.
Supposed to...
Sorry. Well, there we go. So, who here enjoyed Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker on first viewing?
No.
Me.
It was terrible. You can watch my review on YouTube. Plugged.
Done.
Alistair, you really liked it on first viewing, didn't you?
First viewing, I really liked it, and I'll tell you why. It looked really, really good. and I know that both of you will disagree with me
I'm
here.
really restraining
Like,
myself here.
Looking back at it, I don't like the storyline. I thought the storyline was really bland, and they could have done a hell of a lot more with it. But they chose not to. But I think what made it so special was the fact that it was Star Wars. It was seeing it at like 12 o'clock at night when it was first released, and it did look really good. But just looking back, it was so stupid. Like, the Star Destroyers at the end, they are just...
Yeah,
The problem
Like,
is,
they've all
I've
got
seen this
stupid
movie
planet
6 times now.
destroyers, and they didn't have any TIE fighters to defend them. Are you having a joke? and come on, if the information tower on how to get through the maze or whatever to get to the real world from the Sith world, do you remember there was that large mast that they originally
Yeah.
destroyed? Why couldn't they just transfer that to all of the ships instead of just one? Tell me that.
Yeah.
And they could have all just gone through. They're massive
just
Star Destroyers, for God's sake.
Badly written, and also Luke Skywalker is my favourite and probably the best Star Wars character. He got about an hour's of screen time throughout that entire trilogy. He was only predominantly in one film. Like, he had nothing to do in The Force Awakens. He barely did anything in The Last Jedi. And then they it shows up in what's probably in The Rise of Skywalker. It's awful. It's genuinely horrendous. I don't know who thought.
Even though you're saying that that Luke Skywalker should have been in it more, I do adamantly believe that the person who should have walked out of that TIE fighter should have been Hayden Christensen's Anakin, Force Ghost.
Yeah.
Because that fixes the whole plot hole of who should bring balance to the Force. Because if Hayden Christensen walked out there, then he could convince Rey, you need to go and defeat Palpatine. Then he would bring balance to the Force. I just think the sequel trilogy is just a series of missed opportunities.
Yeah.
I think it's
That's just all it is.
Can I just point out, this is like no one else seems to have this criticism, but I cannot get over it. Palpatine is awful in that film.
No, he's not.
He doesn't act like the original one, and I don't understand because it's the same actor. Like, why are his eyes whitened out? It's awful. He doesn't
Because he's a zombie.
Really dead.
Yeah, but it's rubbish. It's really bad, and his acting is like his acting in the prequels works because the prequels are just cheese with cheese grated on top in a cheese sandwich. Like, that's the point of them, and they're fun for that reason. But his acting, it just does not work in The Rise of Skywalker, and you barely see him. He's lit horribly, and it's terrible.
He's not lit horribly. The point is he's lit in the darkness so that you can't see his disfigured face.
Why? I want to see the disfigured face. Body horror. Do something scary. Do something interesting. It's like, if you try and watch that film on a sunny day on a TV, all you can see is the reflection of the clouds. It's awful. It's like, I cannot. The film and Carrie Fisher's inclusion. This is probably controversial, but I feel like it would have been far more respectful and appropriate to just have her character have died in between movies as the actor did. The way they've sort of zombified her and put her in the film, it doesn't work. The lines are terrible and like, never underestimate a droid, blah, blah. They're clearly not actually written for that. They're not said in the context. It's a genuinely terrible, terrible film.
Yeah. I don't think it's terrible. I think that it just doesn't feel like Star Wars, or at least it doesn't feel like the same Star Wars as the other two. If you watch it, the whole plot is we need to get this thing so that we can go to there and kill this guy. It feels more like Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like they're going through caves. Oh no, there's some quicksand. They're going through a festival. It's genuinely just so strange.
When you think about it, it is basically a video game. Like, complete this task, you get to the final boss, and you've won. It's
but unlike a video game, the story isn't fun.
I felt that it was a complete knockoff from the originals. Like, think about episode 4 and episode 7. They found a Force-sensitive person on a sand planet. They
Yeah,
get
but
rescued.
Alistair, it's Star Wars. You can't escape that. As George Lucas said, it rhymes. It's like poetry.
But
It's supposed to do that.
Episode 5 and Episode 8. They both had AT-ATs, right?
Yeah, but you could say the same about Phantom Menace and
Yeah,
Episode
Alistair,
4.
the
You
only
find it like no,
the
it
only
doesn't
real
work.
similarities are between 4 and 7. I feel like you're really stretching the meaning of the
They
word
just got
identical.
So similar.
Also, I've
It's
got to
just like a
say,
knockoff.
if you switch your brain off and watch it, it's similar to the Timeless Children from Doctor Who. If you switch your brain off and just watch it, it's actually quite fun. But it's as soon as you start to think about any of the implications that brings to the table that you just dissolve into a black hole of, oh dear.
Sense. Yeah.
I genuinely think force healing is one of the biggest mistakes that they made.
I've forgotten about that. Please don't bring back the trauma.
Like, they needed to go further into the idea of a dyad in the Force if they were going to make force healing. Because the whole reason that Anakin goes to the dark side is because he wants to be able to heal Padme.
Yeah.
It's just like, psych, that's just one that Yoda didn't want to teach you.
Oh no. It's honestly like, if any viewers have got to this far without turning this off, just I'm.
That's what J.J. Abrams should say about his film, because I'm shocked that people watched it to the end and didn't walk out. But does that wrap up our Star Wars review? What would you guys rate it out of 10 if you had to rate it out of 10 before we finish?
5.
6.
Nah, I'd say about 5 or 6.
I'd give it a 4 out of 10. It's enjoyable to watch when you switch your brain off, but the implications and the final no.
Yeah.
So is that where we're going to leave it for today?
I think we are.
Yeah, I feel like we'll leave it there.
Yeah, on a happy note.
A solid 5 out of 10. That's the average.
Hooray.
Yeah,
so that brings us to the end of today's podcast. If you want to watch more, which you do, subscribe now, follow us on whatever platform this is on. This is going to be on a variety of platforms, I believe, Spotify included, etc. So thanks for watching, and do you guys want to goodbye?
Pluto is a planet.
Pluto is a planet. Hashtag Pluto is a planet. Share it with your nan. Goodbye.